Hi everyone, welcome to day number 7. This is the last day that I'll be doing this format of videos. When I say format, I mean something on the ground, something standing, and something to learn. I'm going to change it up a little bit over the coming days. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to look like, but I need to keep things fresh for my own sanity. So, today is looking at a different aspect of movement. So most of the stuff that we've been doing has involved full body kind of movement and coordination. Today we're going to stop moving and we're going to focus on the internal. So our practice is going to be being still and paying attention to what goes on the inside. Thoughts, breath, fluid flow, balance, all that sort of stuff. A little personal experience, I've been doing this at least daily, if not more, for about 15 months. I had never done any of this before in my life. This has had the biggest impact on overall on everything else. How I see things, how I can understand my own body, helping myself get out of tension, helping me see where problems are going on. It's endless. It's a hard thing for me to describe because unless you actually go through it yourself, you need to see what it means for you, okay? The exploration phase. So, essentially what we're going to do today, I'm going to take you through a standing practice, stillness practice, and I'll just talk you through what I think about as I'm doing it. And then I'll take you through a sitting one, which is very similar. And then I'll get my whiteboard and just show you a thing you could start with, and then some of the things that what you're kind of working on. So let's get into it. I'll take you through standing first, and then a lot of the cues that I'm talking about there are going to then apply to the sitting. But the sitting, I'll show you some different props you can use to help you if you find getting into the position hard. So essentially the task is to stay still for 50 breaths. Okay, 50 breaths for most of you will be between about 3 and 6 minutes depending on how fast you breathe. All right, just natural breaths. If you're doing this with kids, it's probably easier if you put a timer on, some sort of external clock that has a beeper on it, and if they can get to 2 minutes without any movement, they're doing pretty well. Okay, but I think again this is a very valuable practice for kids. At the start, the learning curve is, can I actually stay still for that long to start with? We don't know what's going on in their heads, but ask them questions. If they can do it for 2 minutes, just ask them, what did this feel like for you? What did you notice going on? But we're going to start with trying to go for 50 breaths. All right. Do that. The goal is to do it at least once a day. All right. And if you find that 50 breaths feels relatively good, then just extend it out, all right? And you don't necessarily have to count your breaths after that. If you find counting your breaths hard, do just put on a timer. And then you can forget about kind of having to count or anything like that. You can just live in the moment. So, a couple of little notes. When I say still, I mean still. I don't mean like scratching your forehead, giving in to any kind of fidgets or anything like that. You need to be still. You can keep your eyes open or eyes shut. I would recommend starting with eyes open, okay? Because what you want to do is try and see everything that's going on without having to look around, all right? And if you are doing it with eyes open, I suggest standing or sitting in front of a window, all right? So you've got at least whatever the view is, you've got something that's a little bit beyond the front of your face. And our eyes are not shifting around. Our eyes are just trying to take in, as we're kind of looking outwards, but we're trying to take in as much as we can of what's going on in the peripherals as well. If your eyes are shut, that's cool. You're going to experience a little bit more of the internal. A little bit of both is awesome. Okay, so standing. First thing you want to do, find a foot width that you feel nice and comfortable. You've got basically 2 starting positions and you want to be relatively parallel. So we're not sort of opening up our feet here. Relatively parallel. You've got under your hips, which is a little bit narrower. That's a nice place to start. And then you've also got slightly wider, sort of underneath your shoulders or underneath your armpits. Okay, either one of those is cool. First attention kind of thing is focus on your balance. So I want 50% of my weight on each foot. Okay, so you're just finding that. Second one, I want to keep a slightly more weight in my heels than the front of the foot. So I achieve that by the position of my pelvis. If I need to put a little bit more weight in my heels, I shift my pelvis back. I don't shift my whole body back. Okay? So we're finding the forward and back kind of weight distribution. Next part, rib cage, okay, which is here. We want our rib cage to be hanging, all right? And what this feels like as a sensation is we want our abdominal wall to be relaxed, all right? We're not trying to hold tension through here. We're trying to let our rib cage just hang, and we want to feel this relax, all right? And then the third part is our head. Our head just wants to find a nice neutral position here. If you swim, it's the same as lying down and being in the water. We're not trying to lift our head into an unnatural position. We're just finding a nice neutral position and feel like the top of our head or our crown is light. That's all you're trying to do. Okay? So we're settling our weight into our feet. We're finding the position. We're letting our abdominal wall relax. We're finding a nice comfortable position for our head. And our hands are just down by our sides here, okay? And then we hold it. Now, the first thing you want to try and do is just settle, whatever that means for you. So just spend 10 breaths just kind of settling in. Then, try and think about how open your kind of posture is. And what we're looking for is an open position. So all of our joints, the connection between all of these parts of our body, we're trying to find open positions, okay? Because that allows the transfer of fluid and energy through, okay? Then we want to try and start thinking about where our breath is going, okay? So am I breathing shallow? Am I able to breathe deeply? Am I breathing fast? Am I breathing slow? And then the last thing I'll think about is expansion. And what I mean by that is I want to feel, imagine 6 degrees of freedom. So I've got downwards and upwards, all right? And they're working opposite. So I'm feeling heavy in my feet, but light in my head, okay? I also want to feel like I'm nice and big sideways. And I'm trying to feel big in both directions here. So it's like this, I'm not being pulled forward or pulled backwards. Everything's trying to feel light, as if I have helium inside my body, but it also expands into the ground as well. It's not just floating up into the air. All right? And that's basically the 4 things I go through. So get settled, settle the weight, find openness or balance, then find my breath, and then think about expansion. And you can work on one or all of those things in the time that you're doing it. Now the second position that we're doing is sitting, and all we're doing is looking for this position here. So feet under, from the back, we can sit with our bum just sitting on the inside of our heels here, okay? If you want to, you can also cross your feet over a little bit, like that. And we just sit, hands rested on our thighs, and we run through the same kind of stuff. So get settled, feel the weight sit into your pelvis, into your tailbone. Find this position here, relax the abdominal, find your head position, and just settle into it, okay? Now if you can't get into that position because of your ankles or your knees, so if we struggle with this front part of our ankles here, what you can do is grab a cushion, it can be small or big, and just put it underneath your shins, like that. So then I'm a little bit elevated, I'm not having to work into that cushion. You might need it to be a little bit higher, okay? If I'm finding my knees don't want to do that, I can chuck a cushion or a couple of cushions so I'm up here a little bit more. But you still need something that you can put your weight into. Okay? If you need any help with that, just let me know directly. So essentially I've taken you through everything you need to know, but I think it's important to have kind of a visual understanding of what to kind of pay attention to. And then I'm going to run through a little bit of a review which can be applied to this, or it could be applied to kind of the whole experience of stuff that I've been taking through in the last 6-7 days. So in that stillness and in that standing, the first thing we kind of what we're focusing on is on the internal movement. So when we stop moving physically, everything on the inside picks up its movement. Everything moves more, okay? And then what we're trying to do is pay attention to what that is, all right, for us. So we can think about our thoughts, we can think about tension, where it builds up, where it goes away, can we kind of control that? We're thinking about balance, how do our body weight centers, so our head, our ribcage and our pelvis kind of organize themselves. How open can we keep that connection? And we can think about our breath. Is it shallow? Is it deep? Is it relaxed? Is it slow? Is it fast? Where does it go? Do I feel the sensation of breath through my whole body, or am I limited into this little capacity here of my lungs and my diaphragm? So these are kind of things we're working through. So the first thing I tend to focus on when I'm coming into this stillness practice is the attention. And my attention is trying to take it away from my mind and onto my breath. Okay? First 10 breaths. Just trying to build a bit of attention, forgetting about what else was going on and just coming into myself. The next 10 breaths, I'm focusing on balance. Okay? So how is my body organizing itself on top of my feet? Where is the pressure? Am I able to sit into my feet? Feel heavy into my feet, all right? And then relax my abdominal wall, organize my head, find nice open position, balance. Then I come back to the breath, but I'm thinking it in terms of the physical side of it. So where is it going? Am I able to keep a nice even flow? I'm not taking too much in or pushing too much out. Is it coming easily into my belly and into my lower back, or am I sort of finding tension spots? And then the last 20 breaths, once I've kind of organized all this, then I start thinking about expansion. Okay, and remember, expansion is not just up or out, it's everything, so down into the floor as well. And it's not so much a visual external thing, it's more of an internal kind of just feeling light amongst the gravity. Okay, so that's essentially a starting point. Okay, and then we can look at how we kind of review things. And as I said, this applies to like the other movement that we did as well. So what we're kind of doing in the whole experience is we're training our attention on the internal, what we feel, what we see, how we experienced stuff in our day-to-day movement and day-to-day life. How does my body feel in the moment? So what sensations did I feel? And you can either write these down, make a note of them, or make a mental note of them. An example for me is I've understood that my weight wasn't sitting into my right foot properly. Okay, and so after a little bit of time, I managed to adjust that, and now my right leg is starting to function a lot better just by trying to play around with what that sensation was. Open posture. So can I understand what an open posture or my comfortable posture feels like to me? We're not thinking of what an ideal posture is. We are thinking about when I stand there, I'm trying to find a position where I feel open and I feel like I'm in the best position for me. Okay? And then what can I carry out from the stillness experience, or from this moving around kind of perspective that we've been doing? What parts of this can I carry into just my everyday kind of routine? So you don't have to set aside specific time for stuff. It's just bringing attention to the stuff that you already do. So if I find that this posture that I found in stillness feels really good, how can I check in with that as many times as I can? When I'm sitting at my desk, am I noticing what's going on? When I'm chopping veggies, am I noticing what's going on? Because what really is of all of this is how practical is this for me? So if you don't have extra time to devote to this kind of stuff, how can I do the bare minimum? So I might get up in the morning and I just stand still for 10 breaths, which is literally 60 seconds to 2 minutes, all right? And it's just that tiny little bit of time to check in. And obviously the more you do it, the better you get at dialing into it. But practicality, I've got 4 kids in the house and I don't get any sort of this time to myself. So can I just do it for 2 minutes, maybe once or twice a day, and just quickly trying to check in, and then that allows me a reference point for some other stuff that's going on in my day. And one of the biggest things I want to put across is this idea of not sleeping. So in the standing position, we're not drifting off and letting ourselves daydream. We're actually paying attention to what's going on, all right? Because that information we can then use. If we just drift off and kind of let ourselves daydream, and sure, relaxation is a really important thing, but that's a different subject than this. And that goes with all this kind of movement. When you put yourself in this movement situation, we want to be heightened and paying attention so that we can take something out of it. And that's pretty much it. So thank you for everyone that's followed these in the last 7 days. As I said, I'll continue putting this kind of stuff out. I just need to think about how the format that I want to do it in. If you have any questions with this, I love questions. I'm so used to coaching people in person that this kind of thing where I'm delivering just ideas and things to play with, it is extremely it's very hard to know what connects and what doesn't, okay, when you're not there in the moment. So reach out with questions, reach out with what you kind of found good. I love this one didn't work. Yeah, feedback is great. So thank you for following along, and enjoy the day.